Mic testing 1 2 3. Testing. Mic testing, testing. Testing, 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 testing.
صلوات. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الف لام میم. ذالک الکتاب لا ریب فیہ ھدی للمتقین. الذین یؤمنون بالغیب ویقیمون الصلاة ومما رزقناہم ينفقون. والذین یؤمنون انزل الیک وما انزل من قبلک وبالآخرۃ هم یوقنون. اولئک علی ھدی من ربہم واولئک هم المفلحون. ان الذین کفروا سواء علیہم اانذرتهم ام لم تنذرهم لا یؤمنون. ختم اللہ علی قلوبہم وعلی سمعہم وعلی ابصارہم غشاوہ ولہم عذاب عظیم. ومن الناس من یقول آمنا باللہ وبالیوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنون. یخادعون اللہ والذین آمنوا وما یخدعون الا انفسهم وما یشعرون. فی قلوبہم مرض فزادہم اللہ مرضا ولہم عذاب علیم بما كانوا یکذبون. وَإِذَا قِیلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. وَإِذَا قِیلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ. أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا وإذا خلوا إلى شياطينهم قالوا إنا معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون الله يستهزئ بهم ويمدهم في وطغيانهم يعمهون أولئك الذين اشتروا اشتروا ضلالة بالهدى فما وبهت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا فلما أضاءت ما حوله ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون صم بكم عمي فهم لا يرجعون أو كزيجب من السماء فيه ظلمات ورعد وبرق يجعلون أصابع أصابعهم في أذانهم من الصواعق حذر الموت والله محيط بالكافرين يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم إن الله على كل شيء قدير يا أيها الناس اعبدوا وربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون الذين جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون صدق الله العظيم. Please recite Surah Fatiha.
محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل ہے اون محمد، ہے اون محمد، ہے اون محمد، ہے اون محمد۔ شبیر کا تم صدقہ ہو اب خیمے میں بیٹا، تم لوٹ کر نانا، اے اون محمد، اے اون محمد۔ ہے ماں کو یقین تم ماں کی بات رکھو گے، یہ یاد رہے خیموں میں ہے پیاسے بچے، دریا پہ اگر جانا ہو سحروز کے پیاسوں، تم پیاس نہ بجھانا، اے اون محمد، اے اون محمد۔ ہر حال پہ تم پر لازم ہے شکر خدا کا، اے شہزادو ہے صبر تمہارا ورثہ، فرزند ہو تم زینب کے شکوہ نہیں کرنا، جب زخم کوئی کھانا، اے اون محمد، اے اون محمد۔ کب ہم پہ ستم کرنے کے لیے آئے ہیں، یہ بدروہد کے بدلے کے لیے آئے ہیں، لازم ہے رزز سے پہلے میدان میں تم پر مدح علی سنانا، اے اون محمد، اے اون محمد۔ جب سانس تمہارے بچوں ہو کھڑنے والی، اس وقت سرہانے آئیں گی مادر میری، دل کی یہ میرے خواہش ہے اس دم میری ماں سے، زخموں کو تم چھپانا، اے اون محمد، اے اون محمد۔ قاتل پہ کرم نانا کی طرح کر دینا، یوں لاج میرے بھائی کے نام کی رکھنا، جو واسطہ دے بھائی کا میدان پہ اس پر तुम तेग ना चलाना ऐ ओनो मोहम्मद ऐ ओनो मोहम्मद शाबाश मेरे बच्चों हूँ मैं तुमसे राजी ये कह के तकल्लुम खामोश हुई शहजादी नेज़ों पे सफ़र करके हमरा हमारे तुमको है शाम जाना ऐ ओनो मोहम्मद है ओनो मोहम्मद दरूद बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद
Salam Alaikum. Just a few reminders and announcements. As you all know, inshallah, and Asad Bhai announced yesterday that inshallah these silsila of these ashra will be continuing till the 12th of Muharram, which will be August of 21st. Inshallah, these programs will be beginning as it started today at 7:15 p.m. with the recitation of Quran, followed by Salam, Sozu Marsiya, then Sayyid Maulana Syed Jafri's speech, and then Naha Khwani, and then we have Namaz Maghribain Ba Jamaat. Please remember to generously donate for the towards the Muharram Fund, as these programs are held with your help. We are having the program in the hall, so please do follow all the COVID-19 protocols. Make sure that you have your masks on at all times. Please try to sit and accommodate your whole family within one bounds of box. I do see there are some empty boxes up front, so if you don't mind moving up so people that are coming in can sit at the back. In addition to that, please do follow our My Youth YouTube channel. Do subscribe to that, please, as well. And if you'd like to recite and give your condolences to Bibi Fatima Zahra, please do reach out to me or any My Youth member to recite Noha or Salam or Quran recitation. Please recite a loud salawat, and I'll call Sayyid Asad Jafri to the member. Allahumma.
The situation in Afghanistan continues to worsen day by day. I think it was yesterday that the Taliban now has captured Mazar-e-Sharif, which is a very muqaddas place in that beautiful country, the birthplace of poets like Rumi and others, a place where Buddhists, Zoroastrians, Muslims for many, many years lived peacefully. And I find it a little bit incredible that for 20 years now, these Western powers entered this country trying to destroy the Taliban, and they couldn't do it. And now they leave that country and leave it open for the Taliban to take over. And now the had of the zulm, the had of the oppression, is that now they are asking the Taliban, don't destroy our embassy. If you don't touch our embassy, we will fund your government. This is the had of the oppression. And these are the champions of today's human rights. So please, if you can join me for the sake of the resolve and the courage and the resistance of the Afghani people, for your marhameen, for the Shohada, please, Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Just to create the environment for tonight's majlis, let's recite one nice loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا والشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلاة الله محمد وعلى محمد. Human rights in Islam has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 6. For the past 2 or 3 nights now, we've been trying to establish the base of the human rights through the lens of the deen, all in an attempt to discuss and talk about this debate topic that human rights and Islam are not compatible, and ensuring that this discussion is for you and I, not for others. I say that because first, like I said last night, we have to believe it. And once we believe it through our action, through our certainty, through our spirituality, we'll export that to those around us. 3 nights ago, we talked about the oneness of God, and we ended off that discussion by looking at the fact that because there is only one God, the inevitable result is balance and justice in this world that's void of any sort of discrepancy and discordance. I then took you from there to the idea that if God has this obsession with being absolutely perfect and balanced, then we as his khulafa, as his vicegerents and representatives, also equally have to maintain that set of balance and justice inside of our lives. And that led to last night, a talk on justice and equality, where I mentioned to all of you that Islam has no problem with equality, but you have to place it correctly. And if we talk about both of them together, justice is an absolute virtue, equality is relative. There are moments where equality is not revered and respected. There's never a moment where justice is not preferred. Now, these have been theoretical discussions. I want to present to all of you tonight a practical demonstration of what it looks like when we have human rights and Islam together. We examine a little bit of the life of Imam Sajad alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala. He's a very important Imam. They all are, but in this context, in these ayam, his legacy is incredible. Beyond the fact that he was the only male survivor of the day of Ashura, 3 decades he survived after the day of Ashura. His legacy can be found in his children. But where I want to take you tonight is, I want to take you tonight through his writings. And 3 major works that the Imam left behind that we should have pride about. Number 1, of course, is his dua compilation of Sahifa Sajadiyah. Within that compilation, Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq is a life changer. And then, of course, his treatise on rights, his Risalatul Huquq. Now, these are texts that you and I have at our disposal. They're available online now. They've been translated. They are treasures left behind by the Ahlul Bayt for you and I to model our life on. The reality is that sometimes it's the non-Muslim world who has done more work in research on these texts than the Muslim world has. While there are institutions today, Islamic educational institutions, that are busy in looking at who the author is of the text, and based on that bias, they don't give it any importance. It sometimes is the un-Islamic world that's not worried about the author's name, but the content that's inside that text. So for example, Eaton Kohlberg, who is he? A professor, a Jewish professor at the University of Jerusalem. He's written countless articles and texts defending the Shia faith. One specific text that really caught my eye was Al-Usul Arba'amiyah, where he looks at 400 different narrators of the ahadith of Imam Sadiq and follows those 400 narrators to end up to see where they ended up and where their teachings have ended up. Meaning, these are 400 students of Imam Sadiq, and he follows them to various universities and various educational institutions to see exactly where they have taken the ilm of Imam Sadiq and where they have applied it. My youth should understand a lot of the subjects that you guys learn in school, from algebra to physics to chemistry to astrology to astronomy to mathematics. If you can trace a lot of the sciences back, they go back to our 60 month. Now, when we specifically talk about Imam Sajad, and tonight, obviously, I cannot have an ashra on human rights in Islam and not talk about the Salatul Huquq. The most comprehensive document on human rights that this world has ever seen. And that is not even the start of the kamal of this document. The kamal is who wrote it, under what atmosphere and what environment he wrote it, and what state he was in when he wrote it. That's very important. All of you know exactly what Imam Sajad witnessed on the day of Ashura. He not only witnessed things that were, I can say, normal in a battle, bloodshed and weapons and an army, but he saw things that were, even for a pre-Islamic Arab, not normal. While bloodshed was very, very common and inside of the era of Jahiliyyah, what was not common back then during the Prophet's time was disrespecting the dead body. He saw the death of his father, then he saw the disrespect of his father. Even the Jahil Arabs wouldn't mutilate bodies, wouldn't trample bodies, wouldn't strip the body of their clothes, would not cut off fingers for the sake of a ring or two, would not behead, would not place heads on spears. All of that was only done. And on top of that, would not do it in a month that was known as a month of hurmat and dignity in Muharram. How many laws were broken on that day? A lot were. Who's watching this? A 24-year-old Imam Sajad. Any other person that day, that moment, would have destroyed them. Please follow a little bit of today's muqaddamah for me. Any other man, that would have killed him. And if we think for a moment that maybe time heals Asad Bhai, after a while we forget, blah, 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 time and time again we know, even up until his last breath, Imam Sajad would not forget his father. And you've heard it several times. Animal being sacrificed, going to a wedding, going to different programs, he'd make sure, my father, my father, my father. Even in his last moments, he had to convince his children, if I'm going to leave this world, I want you to lay me down on the khak of Medina. I don't want comfort. If my father didn't get comfort, I don't want comfort. His son, the fifth Imam, would be reported as saying that I would wash the body of my father. And while I knew of certain scars from the days of Karbala, there were certain scars that even I didn't know he had until I washed his body. Those scars don't go away. 33 years after Ashura, he had all sorts of scars around his neck, on his back, on his wrists. These things don't go away. So my point is, it's not Messiah, but my point is, every step of the way, for 33 years now, this man was reminded, whether he saw himself in the mirror, whether he saw an animal being sacrificed, whether he saw, dhulm being done, whether he saw a glass of water. Reminded time and time again of that very difficult day. There's some of us here who have lost parents. And for us, after a while, of course, it's a hollow feeling, all that. The tears are not the way they were on the day of the funeral. It's just human nature. But he would cry tears of blood. In that environment, and by the way, let me make one point here as well. The Mazlumiyat of Karbala has many dimensions to it. It's not just about Imam Hussain being killed. It's how he was killed and by who he was killed. All this is happening not by outsiders, non-Muslims. No, these were individuals who not only were Muslims, but some were actually individuals who helped the mission of Islam. Umar ibn Sa'd was a regular namaz-e-shab reciter. Shimr bin Dhuljoshan, the man who actually separated the head from the body on the day of Ashura, was a man who fought beside Imam Ali in Siffin against Muawiyah. So sometimes what is even hurtful is, apne log the yaar. It was one of our people. This is kalma goyo, as they say in some Nohas and Marsiyas. These people who recited the Shahadat, who were Muslims. Incredible. After Asr Ashur, Zainab read Maghrib and Shimr read Maghrib. So that even adds more to it. Just, if it was me, I'd want to just put myself in a room, close the door, and leave me alone. There's no hope. 23 years of the Prophet of Allah, they saw, Imam Mujtaba, they saw Imam Ali, and still this halat. For Shimr now to sit on the chest of Hussein is a big deal. Don't underestimate that. Even the likes of Hurr, like I said in the Masa'ib, he was shocked when Umar ibn Sa'd said, I have to kill Hussein. In that state now, for him to write what he wrote is a miracle. And shows the importance of the fact that these topics that were discussed by Imam Sajad were of fundamental importance. And it was a reforming movement of Imam Sajad. How could it be that Shimr bin Dhuljoshan fights beside Ali and then kills his own son? We're not talking about centuries after. How could you sway so much from the deen of Islam? Which tells me that for Imam Sajad to write the document of Risalat al-Huquq at that era, in that mentality, with those scars and that trauma, human rights for him was of utmost importance. Don't tell me it's not compatible. Don't tell me Islam doesn't have a human rights document. This man wrote that document with all of these factors inside of him. It's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes I talk to my colleagues in the Hausa, in different parts of the world, different parts of America, different cities. We always kind of keep touch, right? Even just a few days ago, I talked to a brother of mine who is an alim, and sometimes we share stories, right? And he said one thing. He said, you pour your heart out, Sayyid, and you work so hard, and a youth that you're working so hard for and with, you find out that he did A, B, and C act. And so deflating for me, he says. What are we doing here? Why do we leave home? It's human nature. Obviously, you have to constantly kind of fight through that and revisit the niyat. I'm telling you, every single night when I walk from that spot to this mimbar, I talk to myself. Remember why you're doing this. I have to. And what we have gone through is nothing compared to Imam Sajad has gone through. So sometimes you understand the importance of a topic of a document by the historical context of that document. Now, for those of you now who have browsed through that document, maybe even researched it, I don't know. There's lots of PhDs online in different languages on this very document. In the Muslim world, like I said, in the non-Muslim world. Because the comprehensive nature of this document is untouched by any UDHR, any sort of Bill of Rights of America, any sort of European Bill of Rights, anything. And the reason why I went through this nauseating experience of going through God, the oneness of God, then justice and balance and all that, is to bring you to today. Now, from tomorrow, I get into some of the practical discussions. I've yet to address the fact that there is a question in your mind for sure, that look, you talk about human rights, Asabai, human rights, but sometimes in our very homes, there's no human rights. Has to be addressed. It will be. Not before tonight. Let's understand what the ideal is, and then move ourselves towards the ideal. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If you examine this document, he starts off with the right of God, of course. That's where he starts off with everything. "50 different levels of rights in this document. 50. And he covers everything. From God, to the creation, to the self, to everything. I'll give you a few examples to how comprehensive and deep this document is. God makes sense. The right of your mom makes sense. The right of your father makes sense. The right of your wife makes sense. All that, of course, is there. But things as deep as, for example, the right of the mu'adhin, who gives the adhan, he has rights over you. The right of the one who has wronged you, they have rights over you. The rights of the one who seeks advice from you, they have a right over you. The right of the one who gives you advice, they also have right over you. The right of your legs, the right of your arms, the right of your salat and your fasting and your hajj. And my point is that when you understand the depth of this document, he's actually pointing to a reality that any Western liberal human rights document can't even touch. And that is that this document of Imam Sajad represents every dimension of the human existence. From the body to the mind to the soul. And in the process does not leave a single dimension out. Nobody can say, what about this Imam? What about that Imam? What about this Imam? To the point where I'm reading through a document and I can't believe that that person has a right over me, that person has a right over me. And for the sake of this document tonight, I want to actually expand on this topic. It's online, it's well translated. You guys can go ahead and search online at home if you want. Go through it. Understand, if you have individuals that have rights over you and vice versa, it's good to go through it to find out how can I fulfill that right. There's a book online called The Divine Perspectives on Rights. It's on alislam.org. It's a very good book. It actually does a little bit of a shara and a commentary on each of the rights. With ahadith, with ayat, it's a very good book. Divine Perspectives on Rights. Available online. I'll leave that homework up to you. I'll also do it alongside with you. But the thing that I want to make sure that I come across tonight is the idea that if Imam Sajad is presenting us as mind, body, and soul, we have to accept us as mind, body, and soul. Okay? Now, why do I bring this up? You think, Asad Bhai, that's obvious. It's not so obvious. Hold on now. Not so obvious. I'm reciting at Masumin after this. The reason why I bolt out of here, and I'm really sorry, a lot of you asked me questions on my way to the car. And sometimes I'm a little bit short, and I apologize. I have to be there by 9:30. Sometimes I arrive with 3 minutes left. There I'm talking about Islamic identity. And sometimes these talks are very, very much connected. Over there I talked about the idea that one of the things that blocks the formation of an Islamic identity are movements in the West that want to reduce Islam to nothing but spiritual. Please follow me tonight. It's crucial. My parents out there who have kids who are on the verge of now understanding Islam, the aql, the intellect. And ourselves, of course. Like I said, this is all about us. Okay? They want to talk about the idea of yoga and meditation, a higher power, right? We believe in a higher power, very spiritual talks. It's very attractive, all these buzzwords. They can't even bring themselves to mention the word God. They'll refer to him as a higher power, whatever your higher power is. In the process, now what they do is they remain spiritual and they remove the body and the mind along with it. That religion is just between me and my heart. God's in my heart, that's enough, Asad. What I wear, how I look, all these things are not connected to my spirituality. So it doesn't matter how I dress, for example. Doesn't matter where I go. Doesn't matter how I use my tongue. Doesn't matter where my eyes go, where my ears go. My heart is clean. You want God? God's in my heart. Right? I meditate, I do yoga, I don't really pray salat, I'm okay. I donate to the center, I don't really pay khums. Right? I fast all year round, intermittent fasting. I don't really fast in the month of Ramadan, but hey, God's in my heart, right? This whole movement that I always talk about to my youth in this community is SBNR. It's a dangerous movement. Spiritual, but not religious. Meaning, let's keep the higher power there. Let's remove organized religion from the equation. Okay? Very, very fluffy religion. I believe in a higher power, but it's okay. It's like sometimes I see these music artists accept their awards on stage, and they're all tatted up with all sorts of disgusting messages on their body with tattoos, and the first person they thank is Jesus Christ. All praise to God, all praise to Jesus. Meanwhile, he has "kill your mother" on his arm tattooed. "I'll eat your babies," he says in an interview. Right? There's a disconnect, and our youth are buying that disconnect. And this document by Imam Sajad is saying, look, everything has a right over you. And those rights will be asked on the day of judgment. Did this person fulfill those rights or not? Surah Yasin talks about the idea that your mouth will be closed, your hands will talk, your feet will talk. They'll become shahideen of yours. So that's why one of the secrets of building the hereafter, and I'm not swaying from my topic tonight. It's all under the idea of Imam Sajjad's treatise on rights. One of the secrets of the hereafter is this. We have to build a list of character witnesses. Please follow me. In any sort of case, right? The person who is accused of a crime, his legal team, besides, of course, having the forensics and the medical experts, blah, 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 will also attempt to build a list of character witnesses to prove to the jury and the judge that this person is a good person. Good person, right? The neighbor, let's say, for example, the softball coach, I don't know, the teacher, the co-worker, you name it. Has nothing to do with the actual logistics of the actual case, but he does, however, provide the idea, this guy's a good guy. It's not becoming of someone like him to commit a crime. We also have to do the exact same thing for the hereafter. Build a long list of character witnesses. And I don't mean just individuals. I told a story one time, one of the Shabbat Jummah programs here that we had. After our classes in the Hawza, we would go for Jamaat prayers inside the mosque in my Hawza, in my madrasa. And sometimes I would see a couple of ulama, senior ulama, after Zuhr, they would get up They would walk a little bit down the line and they would switch spots with another alim. And they would read Asr in their respective spots. And after a while, I asked, one time my teacher was beside me in Jamaat. I said, look, these guys have done that a couple of times this week. What is that about? And he whispered in my ear that they're building their character witness list. I go, what do you mean? He says, everything becomes a witness against you in this world, even the ground you pray on. So their mentality is, as many places on the ground I can pray salat are all witnesses, witnesses, witnesses. And they will all stand and say, God, he prayed on me. God, he prayed on me. God, he prayed on me. That's why it's mustahab now to pray in different spots outside your home and the same spot inside your home. One of the reasons. In preparation of the Day of Judgment, we also have to do the exact same thing. So I ask you very humbly, and I say it to all of you, my youth out there, my sisters and my brothers out there. This is not something you can't do. Tonight, I want to present this idea of human rights and the deen together hand in hand as a challenge to all of you and myself. Accept the challenge. Because day by day, being faithful is becoming a challenge, tougher day in and day out. There used to be a moment now where the pious ones were revered and respected. When I was growing up now, not to age myself, Sundays was a holiday. Nothing was open on Sundays. It was a day of God, they called it. We had the Lord's Prayer before the anthem. We would stand. Absolutely. There's no letters written that my son will not take part in the Lord's Prayer. No. I still did. I prayed to that same Lord as well. Now those things are slowly but surely being removed. And we've taken the physical dimension of the deen into our own hands. Let me define to me what modesty is. Let me define to myself, for example, what spirituality is, what prayer is. I don't have to cover my hair, Asad Bhai, to be modest in my clothing. Us men don't understand the power of our nigah and our eyes. We don't. We continue to make women around us uncomfortable with our glaring and our smirking and our inappropriate comments and our questions and our jokes, using their first name when they're someone else's wife. These are all things, Sabhai, come on, it's every day. Yeah, that's the problem. It's every day. And I want all of you to embrace this challenge. In every other aspect of our life, we always look to go one step further, right? If you're at a company, guys, for 10, 15 years, and you have the exact same job for 15 years, eventually you'll ask your manager, look, how can I get up this corporate ladder? Or give me a raise, give me a promotion, at least give me to team lead, senior manager, something. If you're not moving in 15 years, either you approach the management or you leave the company. If you've had an undergrad degree your whole life and now you realize 5, 10 years in after your graduation that my undergrad is losing value, then you go back to school and you get a graduate degree. If you're at the gym and you're lifting heavy, let's say, after a while the same weight becomes light to you. What do? You add 5 more pounds. Everything else is progress. The deen stays where it is. Challenge ourselves. Because how you look on the outside absolutely affects your spirituality on the inside. And vice versa. Sometimes it's inside out, sometimes it's outside in. I'll give you one example. Imam Ali, alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala. In Imam Khomeini's Adab al-Salat chapter on libas, he includes this hadith of Imam Ali's. He says that when you wear nice clothing, it removes sorrow from the hearts. It's a point I made actually last night at Masumi. I want to make it now for my young guys in there who ask a lot of questions or might have the questions inside of them about the colors sometimes. Just as a side note in brackets. I don't know why I feel the need, but I do. I still don't think everyone gets a lot of the etiquettes of this azah. It's okay if once in a while in this ashra I throw it in there. Might be obvious to my elders, I'm sorry, but not so much for the young guys. I don't know if they even have the culture to ask that what's the big deal if I wear red on Ashura or a hot pink shirt on Shabi Ashur. If you're looking for a fatwa to say it's haram, you won't find one. But part of the discussion of the body and the spirit being connected is the idea that when you do wear a certain color, it actually creates certain energy inside of you. So, I made this point at someone's house just a couple of years back. That sometimes, we create events that are made to create certain emotions, right? You walk into a wedding hall, it's decked out. The decor is amazing. Everyone is wearing the best clothing. At that moment, you don't come in somber. You come in ready to have a good time. The lights are on, the balloons are up, the streamers are there. It's a beautiful decor. Amazing sort of a table set up. Everyone is in their suits. Everyone has nice suits on, blah, blah, blah. The environment was created to invoke a certain emotion. The outside environment is meant to invoke the inside emotion. If we can do that for happiness, we can do it for grief as well. You can actually consciously create an environment for grief. Dress yourself in black, dress the walls in black, put the lights down a little bit, have your head down, create a mahal, let's say, for grief. You walk into this hall right now, majority are wearing black. Anybody who has no idea what's happening here would walk in and say, oh, this is a very somber event. Everything okay? What happened? Your heads are down, you're quiet, you're wearing dark colors. There's a reason why it's makruh to wear black outside of the days of azah. For those of us who want to create a disconnect between the body and the spirit, it's not possible. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wa salam, Allahumma salli. Let's understand this hadith. He says, مَا ضَعَفَ الْبَدَنِ The body, the badan, won't be za'if. أَمَّا قَوِيَتْ عَلَيْهِ النِّيَّةِ Because of the strength of the intention. Meaning what? It's a very profound statement. If the intention is intent on doing something, the body won't give out. If someone loves to play hockey, and they're set on hockey, their intent is hockey, they'll play for hours. They won't get tired. If someone is dragged to the hockey rink, after one period, I'm done. Shift, sub, please. I'm done. I don't want it. And that guy's never called back again to hockey. If you want to go shopping, 7 hours, 8 hours, rahat, no problem. You drag me shopping, within half an hour, my feet hurt. If I'm up here, for example, 45 minutes, an hour is nothing. I could talk for 3 hours up here. Because my intention is there. He's saying that when the mind is set, the body will go along with the mind. I'll give you examples. And yes, it's very important we establish this in this ashra. Look at the Christians of Najran during the event of Mubahala. They come from Yemen as a delegation for the Holy Prophet. The first person they meet when they arrive is Imam Ali. Imam Ali sees their dress. They're decked out in clothes of royalty. Well, very, very expensive clothing. They thought, you know what? It's a prophet of God. We also want to show sort of our shan and our level. So they come, of course, wearing, as you say, bahari kapde. Really heavy, And Imam Ali says, change your clothes. If you want to meet the prophet, you're not wearing these silk robes. Sorry. If I was them, I'd say, look, our hearts are pure. It doesn't matter what, silk, gold, doesn't matter. No. how you look on the outside is sometimes a reflection on the inside. So this movement of spirituality only being in the hearts, and there not being an organized religion part of it, or the idea it doesn't matter how I look on the outside, what I do to my body, how I show my body. It's none of your business, as oftentimes our young guys say. Whether or not what I'm wearing, what I'm not wearing, how I'm dressed, how modestly I'm dressed, all of that is none of your business. Why do aunties and uncles care how I look when I enter the mosque? There is a wisdom there behind that. And all of you can absolutely do it. I'll tell you, and if today is just sort of a talk with all of you, that's okay. That's okay. I tell you, it bothers me, really bothers me when sometimes I hear elders come to me, call me, message me, and they just, dismiss the entire young generation. Right? We've had this talk before, right? The entire nasl is barbad, right? Oh my God. Just wipe it off the map. Whole generation is gumrah, deviant. They're just useless. Aajkal ke bache, nayi nasl, jawan nasl. Oh my God, throw them out the window. Angrezi, oh my God, hold on one second. When's the last time you spoke to a youth? When's the last time you debated God with them? When's the last time you got a text at 1 o'clock in the morning from them? Because they can't sleep because they don't understand the idea of how can somebody kill Imam Hussain. I get those messages. I get phone calls saying, please, I need 7 sessions with you. I have to understand this Quran. I have to understand the grave. I have to understand God's mercy. From who? From 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 21-year-olds. They don't want to accept the deen blindfolded. They don't want to inherit the religion from Baba or Mama. They want to believe in it wholeheartedly. And they're bold and they're smart and they do their research. Yeah, but. And they'll give me this link and that link and this link. This guy says this, that guy says this. That amount of work to get the religion straight. There's a lot of respect to have. Which tells me this thirst is inside of you. Wherever I go, wherever I travel, I always have youth sessions, right? Wherever I go. I'll never forget this one youth session years ago in a U.S. community. Session was over. It was about midnight, 12:30. This young guy comes to me. He was there the entire program. Came early, sat through my majlis, did matam, ziyarat, tabarruk, sat for the youth session. He was there as long as I was, 4 or 5 hours. And then he tells me about his religious trauma he has inside of him. When he enters the mosque, the entire time he sits at the mosque, there's a pit in his stomach. This nervous energy. He feels like every single eye is on him, but yet he sat there for 5 hours. I said, then why are you here? He says, I want to fix this trauma of mine. You can be better. We don't accept complacency anywhere else in our life. In the deen, for some reason, we're comfortable with complacency. And as I've said before, the amount of resources that all of you have today to better your deen, no one else has had. I'm sorry. Imam Sajad's comprehensive human rights discussion focuses on all 3 of these dimensions. And any Western liberal document does not. It talks about freedom and equality. And yes, things like, a right to live and a right of property and a right of security. Those are all great. There's a huge element of the human existence that's entirely missing. So I want you guys to challenge yourself. Take Islam as a challenge. I've seen you step up to the plate. I've seen you conquer things in front of you. I've seen you now get through a difficult marriage, get through a difficult career, fight through your anxiety and your depression, fight your mental health issues, fight horrible in-laws, fight this move to a different country. I've seen all of you, who I know very well, prosper, flourish, succeed in the most difficult situations. I ask you to apply the same thing for the deen. It needs you today. Imam Sajad's document of 1400 years ago tells us there's a lot more to us than we know and we think. Don't settle. No, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is as far as I'll go. I'll never be like that. That defeatist attitude comes from this liberal movement. Point number 2 I want to make is that this document of human rights by Imam Sajad is a document that is both individual and social as well. And another movement in this sort of, dismantling of true Muhammadan deen is the idea that it's only individual. It's only individual. You, yourself, and God. Doesn't matter how you are with anybody else. The community, the mosque, your family, others, doesn't matter. And we have to now begin to break that idol of individualism down inside of us. Otherwise, we're not going to understand the person beside me, the person down the road, the person in my community, all have rights over me. If we begin to adopt the idea that Islam is only about me, I'm good, then we have, done a huge injustice to ourselves. I remember, and I'm sorry, I have these little small stories, if you don't mind, just kind of bring the point home. I would sometimes, after my class in the Hawza, I would grab one taxi and go straight to the Haram of Masmaiqum for Jamaat prayer sometimes. And I'll never forget this one story that I often tell, and I think it's very, very representing the idea of a communal religion. So I'll tell you where this is coming from. A lot of us think that my individual action when it comes to religion, or my defiance or my deviance when it comes to religion, doesn't affect anybody else. And while I agree, it's a lot to take on. It's hard, I know. I'm asking you, all of you, for a lot. I only ask you, and this is my home community. Somebody had messaged me this morning saying, look, I follow you at the Al-Mahdi Ashra, and I follow you at Masumin as well. You're so calm at Masumin, and you're so excited at Al-Mahdi. Why are you always yelling at Al-Mahdi for? Why are you so calm at Masumin? Even the way you sit, you're relaxed at Masumin, and you're about to jump off the member at council. I go, look, when it comes to your kids, you go, let's go, come on. Someone else's kids, like, okay, I'm a mehman there, I'm not a mehman here. I vacuum these carpets, for crying out loud. I have every right to yell at you guys if I want to. Salam ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Ali. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat. There's a verse, a very beautiful verse, before I get to my point that I wanted to finish. From Surah An'am. I'm trying to establish this connection between the body and the spirit, physical and metaphysical, material and immaterial. Small fiqhi rulings, right? The Prophet, of course, would have a comb in his janamaz. The Prophet would have a mirror by his door. So if Islam is sometimes adamant about how you should dress, from sleeves to socks to everything else, there's a reason for that. Certain colors, for example, there's a reason for that. The verse says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَحْلِ قُرَىٰ, if this certain town, talks about a certain town, the Quran does. If this town, آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا, if they had belief and they had piety. If they did that, lo yani if they did that, لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّن سَمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Very, very carefully follow the equation. God says if the town had belief and piety, all spiritual states. Right? Taqwa doesn't really have a physical dimension to it. Belief isn't really physical in nature. And yet Allah says, if you do that, I will give you physical blessings from the earth. Min samawati wal ard. Arz yani, vegetation, water, rain, you name it. And God's saying, if you fix your spiritual, I will actually gift you the physical. So please don't buy this idea that spiritual but not religious. Does it matter, of course, if I go, if I do this, if I go, of course it matters. Absolutely it matters. Now, I would take that taxi to the Haram Ibn Masmaiqum, and I would join the Jamaat prayer. I remember, at that moment now, in the middle of the day, everything is pretty much closed. Everyone runs to the Haram for Jamaat prayer. It's packed. Thousands of people. Thousands. I can barely see the Imam in Jamaat. And we start our Salat, and the first rakat, we go into Ruku. Right? Subhana Rabbil Azim wa bihamdihi. We go into Ruku. Now I'm into ruku and I hear a faint, faint voice from the door by the dhari, which is really far away. Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Thousands of people in ruku. And by saying Ya Allah, it's telling the Imam and Jamaat, extend the dhikr while I join. This one guy made us thousands of people extend the ruku. We're in ruku. I'm like, come on, bro, hurry up. Let's go join. Subhanallah. And the Imam heard him. Subhanallah, 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 Subhanallah. And from the back, Allahu Akbar. Yani, he joined. And then the entire 1,000-man Jamaat got up from ruku. All of that was, look, delay your ruku, delay all thousands of you so this one individual can join your Jamaat. That's not communal? Absolutely. Could have said, you know what, next time come on time. I'm going to bolster this. No, not at all. We have to understand. We cannot take the deen to be a little bit of this and not this. And yes, it requires a challenge. For my sisters who have a tough time covering their hair, and it's hard, I get it. Because innately a woman loves beauty. I'm saying if that's difficult for you, at least start off by dressing modestly. If we have a tough time, for example, if we have this flirtatious nature as men, I'm sorry to use that word, right, with our co-workers, with people in our family, right? For some reason, you're always there with the women when the men are in one room. We always have that one or two guys in our khandan, right? Like, why are you there, bro? We're all over here. Like, the sound of giggling is the most from his voice for some reason. Why are you giggling over there? Come sit with us. Let's talk about sports. I have a snorter in the audience. Amazing. Salam ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If that's your nature, then work on that. If you made with your eyes now, someone feel uncomfortable, you have to now be conscious of it. My point tonight is very simple. The deen is all encompassing. This document by Imam Sajad is telling us that every aspect of you has rights over you, over me as well. And I take on that same challenge, God knows. Sometimes I tell you, you see individuals who physically are changing themselves. You can tell there is a difference. It's a conscious decision to dress better, dress modestly, act different, watch their tongue, don't swear as much, don't watch these things, don't listen to these things, put their head down. All you can see there's effort there. And others, for some reason, feel threatened by it. Oh, Captain Islam. What happened all of a sudden? Why do you wear abaya? Why are you wearing overalls, let's say, for example, to our sisters? Instead of now building her up, deflate, because they don't have that tawfiq. Accept that challenge. In the middle of the Ashra, I'm asking you, please, Islam is a challenge today, embrace it. I've seen you succeed, you can succeed here as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And for young kids, it starts in the lap of the mother. The first madrasa of any human being is the lap of the mother. Mothers are very unique. I can't figure out moms for the life of me. I can't. They are unique creations. I've never seen somebody so selfless as mothers. To the point where, if their child is sick, the child is in pain, give me that pain. Give me that sickness. If you can't sleep my child all night, I'm not going to sleep either. If there's enough food for either one of us, you eat. I'll go to bed hungry. When you leave the house now, you hear the du'as of the mother under your breath. When you come home at 2 o'clock in the morning, because you were at a Islamic gathering till 2 o'clock in the morning, talking about God, and you're slowly but surely going up the stairs, you think, okay, that's it. Didn't creak once the stairs. And you pass by her room, and all you hear is, Asad, Aage ghar. I go, yeah, mom, so jaiye, go sleep. Now she sleeps. Yani the fitrat of the mother is give me your pain, but you don't be in pain. That's the innate nature of a mother. Not the father, I'm sorry. The mother. Give me the pain. Give me the pain. But you be free of pain. That's the innate nature of the mother. I talked about the wife of Habib last night. Let me talk about the mothers of Karbala tonight. The mothers of Karbala reversed that fitrat. They took on the fitrat of Hussain. Tell me, how many mothers and how difficult, my moms right now who are there, pushing their strollers on the grass right now, rocking their car seats to sleep, still listening to the Messiah, one ear on your baby, one ear on the television set, rocking. Tell me how many mothers on the day of Ashura were sitting there at the door of the khayma, watching their small little child in the Maidan of Karbala being killed by grown men. Tell me how many mothers. And how hard that was. Unsung heroes. My salams to the women of Karbala, the mothers of Karbala. These were not mothers who would say, no, don't go near Hussein. Don't go near that battlefield. You stay in the tent, I'll protect you. No, these were mothers who were preparing their kids for battle. And tonight I send my salams to Bibi Zainab. In the tent, she would talk to them. And she would adopt the sida of her mother, I tell you. Imam Hussain is walking in, Imam Hussain is walking in. Assalamu alaikum ya amma, wa alaikum salam ya qurrata aini. Same idea. She's talking to Ono Muhammad, referring to them. Mere shero, oh my lions, oh my lal, oh my hearts. How difficult is this moment? Reminding them, whose son are you? Whose grandson are you? Whose blood runs through your veins? Tomorrow now, make me proud. Be amongst the Shohada. Give your life for this deen. When that moment on the day of Ashura came, can you imagine now? Some of us now, we have siblings now. Our siblings are married. Our siblings have children. If you have a sister now, imagine your sister's child coming to you. Imam Hussain now watches as Ono Muhammad now are walking towards him. Together. Imam Hussain looks at them, says, Mamu, give us ijazat. My mamu's in the audience. You as a chacha and a taya is one, you as a mamu is something else. Mamu, give us ijazat. Can you imagine Imam Hussain looking down to maybe a 12, 13, 11-year-old Ono Muhammad now? And from the distance, the Maqta says that Bibi Zainab from a distance, standing at the door of the khayma, is watching this interaction, making sure that Hussain doesn't turn down their request. Hussain, if you remember, Abbas in Siffin was 14, 15 years old. And when he fought in Siffin, do you remember how proud Baba Ali was? Do you remember how proud Ali was? Yes, don't strip me of that pride today. He says, I won't. He gave permission to his two nephews. Ali Akbar steps forward. Abbas steps forward. The problem was they were trying to find armor to fit these kids. They're trying to find a helmet to fit these kids, shoes to fit these kids. The same issue they have with Qasim, the same issues they have with everybody else. So what they did was Imam Hussain now brought them forward. The helmet was too big. Abu al-Fadl tried 6, 7 different helmets. Nothing would fit. Imam Hussain ties a green imama on each head, places the helmet on each one, gives them now the sword, mounts them on the horse, and they together ride into the Maidan of Karbala. We are the sons of Jafri. Ja'far recognize who we are. The blood of Bani Hashim running through our veins. And so long as they were together, they were killing the enemy. 3 horsemen, 13 soldiers on foot. But there came a moment now where Umar bin Saad says, separate them. So On went one way, Muhammad went the other way. They began to ambush them. And eventually now they fall from the horse. Assalamu alayka, ya Aba Abdullah. Hussein goes, Abbas goes. They bring the bodies back to the khayma. When every other shaheed would come back to the khayma, the first person to meet Hussein was Zainab. The first person to meet Hussein was Zainab. She would cry on the shaheed. She would give tasalli to Hussein. Bhaiya, don't worry. Bhaiya, don't worry, I'm with you. She would cry with Hussein. She would go to the family of the Shohada and give them condolences. Cry with them, give them porsa, bring the maid back into the tent. All these things. She was there. Such himmat, such strength of Zainab. But when Ono Muhammad were brought back to the khayma, everybody was there, but Zainab couldn't be found. Hussein looked here. Hussein looked everywhere. Where is Zainab? Where is Zainab? Mawla Zainab is inside the tent in Sajda Shukr. Allah, please accept my sacrifice. At that moment, my Mawla Hussein laid down on one side, laid down Muhammad on the other, left a space. Zainab, come. And the Maqta says Hussein went to go get her, walked her towards the bodies of her sons, and watched as Zainab sat there between On and Muhammad, one head on the chest of On, one head on the chest of Muhammad. Ya Allah, accept this Khalil sacrifice. ماطم يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी जब रिदा सर से चनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी जब रिदा सर से चनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया आल इमरान कहाँ और जिंदान कहाँ ये बहन कैद हुई तू ना आया गाजी जब रिदा सर से चनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया हमको पानी ना मिले तेरी खुशबू तो रहे तेरे बाजू ना कटे चाहे मशकी जाच दे ये मगर हो ना सका तेरे बाजू है जुदा मुझ पे है तशना लबी तू ना आया गाजी जब रिदा सर से चनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया धूप में तू ताशजर तुझसे आबाद तगर है भरना मेरा सर क्या नहीं तुझको खबर اے علمدار وفا اس بہن کو باخدا تجھ سے دارستی بری دنایا غازی سر سے چنی آ گئی شام علم لٹ گئے اہل حرم رت پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا ٹھنڈا علم فرصت دینے کے لیے مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آگے بابا علی تو نایا غازی جبر دا سر دیتی کیا کہوں شعر میرے بردا ہم کو لیے یہ مسلمان سارے شہر در شہر گئے خلقت کوفہ کبھی خلقت شام کبھی اور ہاں ہم پہ ہنسی تو نایا غازی جبر دا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی کتنی بے بستی بہن اے شہنشاہ وفا نام لے لے کے میرا جب یہ ظالم نے کہا ناز تھا جس پہ تجھے اب بلاؤ نہ اسے اور میں روتی رہی تو نایا غازی جنی میں صدا دیتی قید خانے میں قضا جب سکینہ کو ملی دیکھ کرتے کا کفن بچی دفنائی گئی اس غری نام تیرا صورت ناد علی بس میں دوراتی رہی تو نایا غازی جبر دا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رویا ریحان قلم کر کے یہ بات رقم خون میں ڈوب گیا میرے غازی کا علم زخمی زینب کا جگر خون فشا شاہ کا سر آئے خیموں میں شکی تو نایا غازی جبر دا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی آل عمران کہاں اور زندان کہاں یہ بہن قید ہوئی تو نایا غازی جبر دا سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نایا غازی سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم الله
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن مولانا أمير المؤمنين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن مولانا أمير المؤمنين وأولاده المعصومين حجج الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان ربي العالى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان الله سبحان ربي العالى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر حول الله وقوته يقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین اهدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ قل هو اللہ احد اللہ الصمد لم یلد ولم یولد ولم یکن له کفوا احد۔ اللہ اکبر۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا فی الدنیا حسنۃ وفی الآخرۃ حسنہ وقنا عذاب النار۔ ربنا اغفر لی ولوالدی وللمؤمنین یوم یقوم الحساب۔ رب اشرح لی صدری ویسر لی امری واحلل عقدۃ من لسانی یفقہوا قولی۔ اللہم صل علی مولانا صاحب الزمان وعجل فرجہ الشریف۔ اللہم لعن قتلۃ الحسین واولادہ واصحابہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم وبحمدہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد۔ سمع اللہ لمن حمدہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی وبحمدہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد۔ اللہ اکبر۔ استغفر اللہ ربی واتوب الیہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ سبحان ربی العلی وبحمدہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد۔ اللہ اکبر۔ الحمد للہ اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعتہ وارفع درجتہ حول اللہ وقوتہ یقوم۔ سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ ولا الہ الا اللہ۔ سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ ولا الہ الا اللہ۔ سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ ولا الہ الا اللہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم وبحمدہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم۔ سمع اللہ لمن حمدہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی وبحمدہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم۔ اللہ اکبر۔ استغفر اللہ ربی واتوب الیہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ سبحان ربی العلی وبحمدہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد۔ یا لطیف ارحم عبدک الضعیف۔ یا ولی العافیہ نسألک العافیہ عافیۃ الدنیا والآخرہ۔ اللہ اکبر۔ الحمد للہ اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد۔ السلام علیکہ ایہا النبی ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ السلام علینا وعلی عباد اللہ الصالحین۔ السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر۔
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في الدار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك